I told you, like, I didn't have a whole lot going on for the subject of today's show, Charlie. But we did get from one of our regular listeners and contributors a suggestion for a theme for today.
Okay.
Thirsty Thursday.
Thirsty Thursday.
You know, I love alliteration and just making that
and
into,
drinking.
Yes, of course. And turning that into just show themes based on like, okay, this rhymes. How can I now turn this into a show theme? So Thirsty Thursday from Ethan Freeman. He suggested, he sent me this tweet. Love the themes y'all are using for PHLY Flyers shows during these dead days of summer. I'm advocating for Thursdays to be Thirsty Thursdays, and you guys talk about the players/stars we wish were on the Flyers. And then he adds, while slamming back Coors, of course. And yeah, man, choose chill. And I don't know how maybe we'll turn this into a thing. But the first thing I really thought of, like, I mean, there's so many guys. Like, yeah, give me all the good players, stuff like that.
Every single good player.
But like I've mentioned previously that there's this alternate timeline where the Philadelphia Flyers are in the position that the Dallas Stars are in, which is
there is
perennial Cup contender.
There is.
And it goes back to 2017, but there's more than that. So what I'm thirsty for, and you can take this in any direction. I have a couple of things, but what I'm thirsty for is this alternate timeline in which we are in this position of the Dallas Stars. We can go back to 2017 draft. That's the big one. We take Nolan Patrick. The very next pick is Mira Heiskanen. We said yesterday, like, yeah, Cale Makar rules too. But he's there, and he's the one apparently the scouts wanted.
Yes.
Now, Bobby Clark will tell you they wanted Makar, but Bobby Clark doesn't know shit about drafting anyone.
I just don't think Bobby Clark was Bob Clark was in the room.
Yeah.
Bob Clark probably, and my understanding of this is that Clarkey knew that there was a defenseman that they wanted over Patrick, he picked the better of the two.
The one who was making the headlines.
Because he was very, very angry at Ron Hextall at the time. So,
exactly.
Yeah.
But then later in that draft, we remember the Flyers trade back into the first round, and it's like, oh, it's Eli Tolvanen. Oh, no, it's Morgan Frost. One pick before Morgan Frost, they get Jake Ottinger. Now, sure, we had Carter Hart at the time, but like, oh, Jake Ottinger.
He looked good right now.
Jake Ottinger's pretty
real
good
right now.
He looked real good right now. And then the one that maybe kills me the most, because Isaac Ratcliffe was my guy. Isaac Ratcliffe goes 35. Flyers trade up to get him. Jason Robertson goes 39.
That's killer.
That draft right there, it's a totally different team.
Yeah.
That draft right there.
One draft.
Now, all right, 2018, we did take Farabee one pick after Ty Dellandrea,
who just got traded to San Jose.
I always want to say Dale Andrea, but no, it's Dellandrea. I'll take that one. I'm cool with that.
Yeah, Farabee was the better. Is going to be the better player. I mean, Dellandrea might be a bottom sixer if he hits, but Farabee is a clear cut, at least a good middle six forward, and might be a top six forward.
2019, we take Cam York at 14. I like Cam York, good player. They take Thomas Harley at 18.
Yeah, I like Thomas Harley more.
I think I would take Thomas Harley.
Yeah, I think so too.
I think they win that one.
Yeah.
And then 2021, this one, I mean, you have to really squint to see it, but they take Wyatt Johnson at 23. We traded our first, which was 13th, 14th overall, depending on how you want to order it, because there was no pick 11.
Right.
For Risto. And then at 46, we get Samu Tuamala. They get Logan Stankoven at 47.
Ouch.
And then, of course, they also drafted at 48 that year, and they take Artem Grushnikov. Now, who the hell's that? Hasn't played in the NHL yet. Well, they just traded him in the 3-team trade that landed him Chris Tanev.
Okay,
so, like, the good version of what Risto, like, what they think Risto is, that guy. They get him, too, in that same, with the same
with the
year's
asset
draft
accumulation.
Pick.
Right,
like,
right.
My God. Even if you want to swap the Farabee one, like, all right, that's a miss.
Yeah, like, I'll deal with Dellandrea.
I'll take the like, God damn it.
Yeah.
If we could just be the Stars in the exact same timeline.
Yeah.
God damn it, man.
Yeah. It's a fair point.
This shows you how thin the line is. Flyers rebuilding might take a while. We don't really see the path, maybe. And then the Stars, yeah, man, they could win the Cup this year, next year, year after. Like, they're probably going to win one. good chance. They're at least going to go to another conference final, go to a cup. Like, they're so good.
If you have 3 really good drafts, you're going to be a cup contender.
Yeah.
And the thing is, like, yes, some of that is absolutely scouting ability, having the right people, having the right GM who can, hear everyone's voice in the room and go with the person who is the most intelligent, who makes the strongest case. To be sure, that's part of it. A lot of it also is luck.
Sure.
It is. A lot of it is luck.
There's no way to know Jason Robertson's going to be this.
Yeah.
There's no way to know, Stanko, and he's going to be.
Not for sure.
Yeah, like, you can. Everyone is sure, like, oh, no, that's my guy. Mm-hmm. Like, there's no way to know. You are throwing darts. Yes, it's clear that they're good at this. Like,
yeah,
I think after 17, 18, 21, like,
to be sure,
right, they're pretty damn good
also,
at this.
They've missed on guys too. It's just when they've hit big.
Their hits aren't just like, oh yeah, we found a guy.
Yeah.
Like, oh yeah, it's a shitty draft. We got a Scott Lawton. That's a nice pick in the 20s, whatever. It's like, oh no, we found several dudes and not just in the first round. Yeah. And when you hit outside the first round is when you hit home runs. Like, because your first rounders are going to be something probably, they're going to, even if they're not stars, they're going to be NHL players. Like, they're probably going to be something.
Exactly.
And then you find a dude in the second, third. It's like, well, fuck.
Well, and look at Tampa. Like, yeah, you can point to Tampa and you can say, well, Hedman was a top 5 pick. Stamkos was first overall pick. And yes, like that is your superstar core. Yeah. You also get Kucherov in the second. You get Braden Point in the third. You get Vasilevsky in the late first, which, it's still a first-round pick, but we're complaining that having the 14th pick isn't enough, or the 13th pick isn't enough. Like, they got him, I believe, in the early 20s, something like that, late teens, early 20s, something like that.
The Flyers are awesome in the 20s. That's where they do their best work by far. It's these early picks they keep screwing up.
So there are a lot of different ways we can take this Thirsty Thursday thing, because you're taking it as who am I thirsty for now?
Yes.
Like it's popped up in the chat. Like, I wish the Flyers could trade for Quentin Byfield.
Sure.
I don't think they can. I wish they could. I'm going to take this in a little bit of a different direction, because I'm going to go back and look at players who I really wanted them to get at the time that I do think they could have gotten. I'm going back to the conversation we had yesterday about
the time machine,
about the Pronger thing, and about how they were trying to recreate Pronger in the aggregate, and they kept bringing in worse and worse defensemen to try to replace Pronger. And instead of addressing the problem, they just made their defense worse and worse by bringing in more and more bad players. One guy who during that stretch, who I really think was available, because Toronto was real stupid back then, and he was constantly in trade rumors, was Jake Gardiner. There were multiple offseasons where Jake Gardiner was in every trade rumor in the world, and I think Toronto was itching to trade him for a first-round pick or a second-round pick and a decent prospect or something. They clearly did not like him. They were not sold on him because he was an analytics guy who was a puck mover, who wasn't physical. But when he was on the ice, Toronto did well. They never moved him ultimately. The Flyers instead traded for guys like Grossman and McDonald. Year after year, was like, get Jake Gardiner. And I don't know. Jake Gardiner, in retrospect, he was not going to become a number 1 defenseman. But he would have been a lot better than the guys they got. And maybe those early Claude years would have had a little bit more help on the back end if they would have traded for an actual good defenseman instead of multiple bad defensemen.
That's the thing. No matter, they had some decent forward cores, and I'm looking at this time period here for Gardner, 16, 17, 17, 18, 18, 19, where he has a combined 125 points in 226 games, and he's a plus 52 in those 3 years. It's even those years when they had some pretty decent forward cores, and you just look at the D and be who thought that this was a playoff? You think you can compete like this, and it was just an absolute joke. But even the years before that,
he was good, and it was just, to me, it was an example of we talked about this with Buffalo and Ottawa this year, where you had 2 front offices poised to do something stupid.
Yes,
those Dave Notice GM'd Toronto teams were constantly poised to do something stupid, such as
they just needed a push.
The David Clarkson signing. They were constantly doing dumb things. And I just wish the Flyers would have been the team to take advantage of their obvious backwards stupidity, and they just never did.
That was
because they were also run poorly.
That was the way I was initially going to take this, and I was like, who are the guys that I absolutely thought like, they're going to do this, and it's going to be so goddamn stupid. I was convinced that they were going to sign David Clarkson. I was like, it just makes he's such a flyer, like this power forward, net front guy. He's tough as shit. Like, doesn't matter that we already have Wayne Simmons. They're going to get another one. Now we have two of, like, we have Hartnell, we have him. We have, like, it's going to be perfect. It just made, it was such a bad idea. I was just convinced they were going to do it. And when he signed with Toronto, I was just so thankful. I was like, yes, they didn't do the dumb thing. Like, thank God they did not do this.
Yeah.
Like, that was one of the ways I was going to take this.
He did fit the Flyers mold.
Perfect. Like, oh, yeah, let's overpay this guy who's absolutely going to break down because his whole job is getting cross-checked in the back.
Yeah.
Like, that's
a fair point. I think that the thing that might have saved them on that front is that they already had Simmons.
Yes.
If they didn't have Simmons, I bet they do try to outbid Toronto for Clarkson. The guy who I had a similar fear about later, that this was a few years down the road, but it was the first year of the Chuck Fletcher tenure, and they had made it abundantly clear that they were prioritizing the acquisition of maybe not just one, but multiple right-handed shooting defensemen. I was terrified that they were going to throw a boatload of money at pending UFA Tyler Myers because he shot right-handed and was really, really tall. And there are a few things that traditional hockey men love more than defensemen who are really, really tall.
Tyler Myers is still making good money in the league. And he, like I was saying to you before the show, he is going to play longer than Jágr simply because GMs are going to keep paying him to be as tall as he is. Yeah. Like, God, if he ever, like, I hope he drinks his milk. Like, if he ever gets osteoporosis and starts shrinking, it's over.
It's over.
But, like, that dude, he is just tall, and he's always going to be tall.
Yeah, he's always going to be tall.
Always going to be a place for him. That said, like, one of the guys I was thirsty to just really see work out, I was all about Oliver Lauritsen.
Oh, the Great Dane.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
That's he had that first career goal where he like took a shot that went so wide and bounced off the boards and just somehow ended up in the net. And it was like, man, if he ever gets that thing under control, like, he is not Fulton Reed. That was just absolute freaking luck.
We all silly like the mayor.